Hello Internet, my name is Hazel from Hazelnutty Games, and this is my kill of heroic Gothik the Harvester in Curse of Naxxramas Hearthstone using a Paladin deck. You will be able to take a look at the deck list. I'm going to overlay it on the left hand side of the screen. It's also in the description below this video. So I tried quite a few classes for Gothik, and I've heard it's possible on quite a few different classes, but I found Paladin worked best for a couple of reasons. This Sword of Justice is one of the biggest ones. Unfortunately, it is an epic card, but it is very important to this deck, so it may not work as well if you don't have it. Mind Control Tech is another card that I think would be good in any class deck against it because he floods the board so quickly. So Gothik's deal is that he ramps like a mofo. His hero ability is auto cast, costs 1 mana for him, draws him a card every turn, so he's essentially drawing 2 every turn, and it also gives him a mana crystal. So by the time that you've reached 5 mana crystals, he will be at 10. He uses all of that extra ramp to basically flood the board with big minions. None of these minions tend to have charge, but they will summon Spectral Minions for you, which will damage you every turn. So that's kind of his gimmick. And there's a couple ways that you can take advantage of that. These minions have 0 attack and varying numbers of health, and they'll all ping you for 1 damage each turn regardless of how big they are. You can take advantage of that by doing a couple of things. You can buff their attacks so that you can hit him with them. You can taunt them up so that they can protect you. And honestly, the ping damage isn't that big of a deal, especially compared to how much damage you're taking from the minions he's flooding the board with. There we are. You're going to see Baron Rivendare there. I put him in kind of for fun. His whole deal in this deck is to combo with the Haunted Creeper and the Nerubian Egg to make those do double duty if you happen to get a combo. And if not, he's still a fairly cheap minion with a lot of health that Gothik is going to see as a threat, so that's going to make him use some of his removal. The reason that I haven't decided to try a priest deck with this is that this guy, unlike others, actually does run removal. He uses corruption, which is, of course, for 1 mana, it's going to cause your minion to die on your next turn. So here we go with the Mind Control tank. That brings us an abomination, which is perfect, nice 4/4 taunt for us. And my sword is going to buff my Mind Control tech up to a 4/4. Yeah, so I like Baron Rivendare in this. If you've been playing Nax up to this point, then he's not really going to be a big deal for you. I always like to clear the wing first on normal before I try it on heroic, and I think you might have to. There we are. So humility is really good for situations like this. Those 5/6 guys can often be better just to leave on the board if you can make their attack 1, which you can of course do with humility, or we are also running Aldor Peacekeepers in this deck. There we are. So they're going ahead to chip away at that abomination. Now you will notice that despite the need for board clear, there really isn't any consecration in this deck. I decided not to run consecration because there's so much AoE damage going out between the unstable ghouls and the abominations that I don't really think you need it. The other benefit to the sword, as you can see here, is that when those spectral minions summoned on my side, they got buffed by 1/1, which means that they can attack, and that means I can use them to trade with his minions to kill them off, and also they're a bit more of a threat to him, so he may actually kill them off himself. Here we are. Holy Lights are very important in this deck, just for 6 healing for 2 mana is quite efficient, and you are going to need to heal a bit to outlast him. He does hurt quite a lot. So we've gotten used to Quality. Quality combos quite well with those unstable ghouls and abominations when you kill them. Because even my minions are at 1 health now, when I kill that, it's going to wipe my board as well as his, which is good because I don't really want too many of those spectral minions pinging me every turn. There we are. So now I've got a 1/7 and a 1/3, and I'm going to go ahead and drop a Sunfury to taunt them up. We're running 2 Sunfury and 2 Defenders of Argus in this deck for that reason. You can use them to add taunt to 2 of the spectral minions, which is going to force him to get rid of them in order to attack you, which is pretty darn good. There we are. They also tend to be fairly high health, so they make for good taunt minions. There's the corruption, and thankfully he's using that on a minion that we didn't really want to keep anyways, and there's his Unrelenting Warrior. I will one day catch up on mana crystals, and there's my other Holy Light. Perfect. Blessing of Mights can also be used on your spectral minions to give them attack if you need to. Those are very flexible for 1 mana. I decided not to run Blessing of Kings because I found it was a little bit too slow. I like the cheaper one better, and you're often going to be cycling through your minions, trading through them. You won't keep them for that long, so there's no sense in buffing them up to ridiculous proportions. So we tossed Baron Rivendare out just because we didn't really have a whole lot else to do, and that should theoretically target some removal from him. And he goes ahead with another abomination. This guy does use quite a bit of taunt. Because of the death rattles of his minions and how much taunt he uses, I experimented quite a bit with Priest because Mass Dispel just seemed too good. But as a Priest, I just couldn't survive well enough. I know it can be done. You can certainly look around online to find some other Priest decks for Gothik the Harvester, but I found Paladin was much easier for me. So there we go. We're going to buff that up to take out one of these guys, which AoEs everybody for 2. Gets rid of some of his minions, gives me another dude. And we're buffing up our Baron Rivendare. We're not thinking too hard at this point. You basically want to control the board. The idea with this, and it doesn't have to get to this point, but generally, if you can keep up with his damage and keep trading efficiently with his minions, you are going to run him out of cards, and because he draws 2 cards per turn, he will mill out reasonably quickly. I tried specific mill decks. I tried Druid Mill and I tried Rogue Mill, and I found that they were very RNG in order to work, whereas this strategy tends to be a little bit more reliable. It won't work 10 times out of 10, but I had pretty good luck with it. This was actually my first or second try of this deck. I don't quite remember. Hammer Wrath there gets rid of the Undertaker. You do not want to let those get out of hand. Those should be priority to get down when they come out because they can get disgusting very quickly. Almost all of his cards have Death Rattle, so they'll proc that up pretty fast. So you can see here we built ourselves a little bit of a board state. We're down to 11 health and we are out of Holy Lights. I'm not running any Guardian of Kings in this deck because they're a little bit too slow. You can't use them until later game and you don't want to be stuck with something like that in your hand early game. And I found it wasn't quite necessary. Still a good addition, especially if you're missing any of the cards here, or if you don't want to bother with the whole Baron Rivendare thing, then that's perfectly alright. Nerubian Eggs are in here, not only just a combo with Baron Rivendare, but because I love them. And with all of the Argus and Sunfury wandering around, you're going to get pretty good value out of them. One thing this guy does not run is he has no way to silence your cards, so you will get full value out of any effects on your cards. There we are. Same reason that I didn't run the Guardian of Kings applies to not running Tyrion Fordring. Even though he wouldn't silence it, and it's pretty good value, I decided that I didn't want to have something with that high mana cost. The only high mana cost card that you're going to see in this deck is Lay on Hands, just because I wanted to give it a try. And he comes out with another Unrelenting Rider, and decides to Corruption my 4/4 Aldor Peacekeeper. There we are. He gets a little silly with Crazed Alchemist. I've seen him pop 2 of them in a row just to reverse the minion's health twice just because he wants a 2/2. So as far as Blessing of Wisdom, there's a bunch of different things you can do with this. My favorite thing to do with it is to cast it on one of those 5/6 Unrelenting Riders and follow it up with a Humility or a Peacekeeper to give him 1 health. So that means that that minion's going to stay on the board for quite a while because it takes a while to burn through that 6 health with AoEs. And every time that he attacks, which will be every turn, you'll draw an extra card. So that can be really good in keeping up with him and his card draw. There is no way that you are going to mill out before he does, so don't even worry about it. So in this case, he goes ahead and taunts up that rider, puts out another card, but you'll notice that his hand is empty. And I pull another Blessing of Wisdom. We're down to 7 health, so we're looking a little sketchy here, but that's alright. I'm able to get rid of that Unrelenting Rider using my cards, and I lose my Defender of Argus. I'm running a Doomsayer in this deck. I would have put 2 in, but I only have the 1. This is very good just because he can almost never get rid of it, and that's going to clear the board, and clearing the board is almost always better for you than it is for him. You're not usually going to come up with huge board states, and when you do have huge board states, they're usually going to consist of a lot of those Spectral Minions that ping you every turn, so you don't really want that. So here we go. 2 health. Doomsayer clears the board, but I have 2 health, some spiders, and a guy that's going to ping me, and I pull Lay on Hands. This was kind of a bit of divine luck. Lay on Hands, of course, heals you for 8, draws you 3 cards, was exactly what I needed that moment, and I have never felt so lucky in my life. So, there you are. You'll notice Cult Master's in this, and I find him quite good, him or her, I suppose. Because of how many minions you're going to lose, she can usually draw you quite a few cards before she gets taken out. A good target for Corruption from him, but still a good card to have for 4 mana. So you'll notice he is completely out of cards at this point. Those 4 that he's holding on to right now are all he has left, so all we have to do is deal with those safely without dying, and we basically have the whole game. He Corruptions my spider because he likes dumping his hand. He's a big fan of that. He's not usually, generally, AI generally won't hold on to cards. They're not usually that smart. So we have an equality, which is beautiful because that allows us to bring his minions both down to one-shottable. We'll go ahead and take out the Undertaker and draw another card because I think we have Blessing of Wisdom to the spider with lack of anything else to do for it. Aldor Peacekeeper left, which will bring him down to 1. And that lowers his damage capability quite a bit. There's not really a whole lot else he can do to me at this point. And he is going to proceed to fatigue himself horribly. He's got 23 health left, but that fatigue stacks up quite quickly. There we are. And I have another Spectral Warrior. It's a little bit tight, but I think that we've pretty much roasted him. Here we are. So, at this point, you dump everything because why the hell not? Sure. Taunt it all up. Go for it. You can do it. Humilities can also be used. Humilities and Aldor Peacekeepers actually can also be used on your Spectral Minions, of course, like that, which allows you to attack with them, especially if there's minions on the board on the opposite side. You can get rid of them that way as well. Lots of different ways to get those active. You could, if you wanted to, trade out the Haunted Creepers for some Direwolves. Direwolf Alpha or Raid Leader will both buff all of your minions by 1 attack, allowing you to attack with Spectral Minions. So that's not a bad choice, something to play around with. And there we go, we did it. That's how it works. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.